Ms. Scanlon.
Thank you, Secretary
There's no response to
Mayorkas.
any of it.
Over here. Thank you for being here today to address the many issues under your jurisdiction, including the important task of how we can ensure our national security while honoring our legal and humanitarian obligations. I appreciate you coming here prepared with facts and plans to help us do that job. And I'm sorry that so much of this hearing has been wasted with political grandstanding and disinformation. As others have remarked, from its earliest days, ours has been a nation of immigrants, home to those fleeing poverty, persecution, and war. I'm incredibly proud of the diversity of my district in Pennsylvania and the generations of Americans who welcomed immigrants into our country. But our nation also has a history of political opportunists who attack the latest wave of immigrants and seek to stoke fear and chaos in order to gain or cling to power. Whether those attacks were made against my ancestors, the Irish, yours, Secretary, from Cuba, those coming to our southern border today, or so many other groups in between, we've heard the same language and scare tactics. But then and now, those attacks are a sham, vile attention-seeking to divide and distract us from their proponents' lack of seriousness, their lack of solutions, and even at times, their own misconduct. I do want to echo several of my colleagues in thanking you for your efforts to reunite children who were separated from their families at the border under the last administration. Like you, I've met with children who were separated from their parents and seen the lasting trauma that caused. As a mother, it made me weep. It still makes me weep. As a patriot, it makes me sick to think that our country played any role in the immoral and heartless decision to rip children from their mother's arms for purely political purposes, with no interest in how that action would traumatize those children and no plan to ever reunite them with their families. So I appreciate your efforts in that behalf. I also would like to turn to an issue of immediate concern in my district. The city of Philadelphia was the primary point of entry to welcome thousands of our Afghan allies who fled their homeland after the fall of that government last summer, and hundreds are attempting to settle in our region. The fact that we anticipate a wave of Ukrainian refugees coming to our region as well adds some urgency to the need to address issues in the resettlement process. One of the greatest danger points for our Afghan allies is that family members who remain in Afghanistan are targets for the Taliban. Many family members of Afghans living in the U.S. have filed for immigration parole so their family members could join them here. Unfortunately, we've seen the backlogs in that process, and I understand there are nearly 40,000 parole applications awaiting adjudication. So what can DHS do to reduce the backlog for those applications, and how can it manage that backlog while also addressing the needs of the Ukrainian refugees we anticipate?
Congresswoman, thank you very much for your statements that precede your question and for your question which focuses on a very vulnerable population of individuals. So we have sought to prioritize to the best of our abilities the applications of individuals who are in Afghanistan who seek humanitarian parole. We have dedicated personnel to that effort. We're very aware of what the delays are, and we're trying to work as best we can with the limited resources that we have to work through that group of people and that critical body of applications, understanding the urgency. I must say that the personnel of USCIS are just doing extraordinary work, meeting the moment in a number of different regards, given the situation in different parts of the world.
Thank you for that. And we have worked with USCIS people in our region, and we know that they are working really hard. I am concerned about reports that Afghans are nervous about affirmatively applying for asylum. And according to immigration advocacy groups, there's not sufficient legal assistance to help them. We know how complicated immigration law is. Many of our colleagues have trouble understanding it. And it's particularly difficult if you're coming from another culture and speaking another language. So what can DHS do to ensure that our Afghan allies are able to navigate our system?
So we've done a number of regards, Congresswoman, in that regard. First of all, we have worked with organizations to make sure that we are matching the individuals who might not otherwise know how to seek relief, to be able to educate them on how they can. Individuals already present here in the United States who have become naturalized, who have the cultural sensitivity and the understanding and the language capacity to match them with the individuals seeking relief. We've also worked with law firms to be able to provide pro bono assistance so individuals can access the humanitarian pathways that our laws provide. We're trying a number of different ways in which to match individuals' needs with the resources that are already resident here in the United States.
Thank you. I see my time has expired and I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Mr.